Putting the K in magic. I'm Joanna DeVoe, and this is a little rant video about a tree. A tree that I just recently named the Giving Tree. I named it after Shel Silverstein's amazing book, The Giving Tree. If you haven't read that book, I double dog dare you to read it without crying, and I'm guessing that you won't be able to. It is such a sweet, touching, deeply moving book, very spiritual, and I'm such a fan of Shel Silverstein in general. I loved him so much as a kid. I love him even more as an adult. His work has greatly influenced mine, and this book in particular is just major. And it came to mind yesterday when I officially named this tree. We have some amazing trees on our property, and we have several mulberry trees, and one in particular is bordering our property and the neighbor's property, and I love it because it gives me privacy, so I don't see my neighbors. I see this big beautiful tree, and it keeps my kitchen cool so that my kitchen doesn't heat up in the mid-afternoon when the sun is like trying to slant in through the windows. And I've lived here now almost a decade. It'll be a decade next spring, so it has given us countless crazy squirrel visitors and birds. Birds always build their nest in this tree, and I love the little hummingbirds that have made their home there. It's just a beautiful, beautiful tree. And earlier this spring, our neighbors, they were climbing on our roof. They didn't even ask us if it was okay, and they were climbing on our house and hacking away at this tree. And they did it a couple of times, and they're such nice people. There's like a bit of a language barrier, but they're so smiley and nice to us that we like didn't want to be rude and go running out there and be like, "What the hell are you doing on our roof?" But I eventually did in as nice a way as possible. And we basically just gave them a warning, don't fall off our roof, and we're not going to be responsible if you do, and why are you cutting down this tree? What are you doing? And they said they were just trimming it. And then yesterday, at 7 o'clock in the morning, we heard this huge boom that was like shaking our house, and they had an axe, and they were cutting down the tree. And 12 hours later, they were still trying to cut down this tree. They busted out chainsaws, a couple of different chainsaws. I think they broke them both. And there were 6 men trying to cut down this one mulberry tree. And I was very upset about it. I went out there a couple times and was like, I love this tree. Why are you guys cutting this tree down? And they were able to because like 90% of it is on their property, the trunk, and only like a little 10% of the trunk is actually grown through this chain link fence on our property. And they had like dug way down, and they were trying to chop at the roots. And this tree was just not going to die. They just could not kill it. They were chopping and chopping and chopping, and the noise was crazy. I already have a problem with the noise, but I was really upset about them cutting down this tree. And I did finally go out there at 7 p.m. at night when I was trying to make dinner, and I was still nice, but I'm sure they knew I was irritated because I was like, you guys are giving me a heart attack. I cannot take the stress and the noise. This has been going on for 12 hours, and I really loved that tree. Why would you cut down this tree? And they said they were sorry about the noise and they would stop, but that they were going to come back today. So when I woke up this morning, when I wake up in the morning, I usually do like a little devotional. Sometimes I work with the Tao. Sometimes I work with like a witchy book or just anything spiritual that inspires me. I'll read a little bit and I'll meditate. But the first thing I did this morning, I wanted to beat them to the punch. I went outside in my pajamas and I dug around on the ground looking for like a really good representation of this tree. And I got a piece of bark. And I took it inside. And I actually have an altar in this window, this kitchen altar that I built in this window that used to overlook this beautiful tree. I am such a hippie. I cannot believe this is going to make me cry. Pull it together, Joe. I built this little altar, so I put the bark in the window in this little, offering bowl kind of thing that I have sitting there. And I said this little prayer that I just kind of made up in the spur of the moment, thanking this tree for all it has given us, and then for showing me like that it's worth putting up a good fight and refusing to be cut down and refusing to die when you have something to give, when you have something to offer. And it made me think about that book, The Giving Tree. In the book, The Giving Tree, this tree just gives and gives and gives to this little boy. When he's a small boy, he lets him climb on it and eat its apples and play. It offers him shade when he's older. And later it lets him cut it down to, I can't remember if it's to build a house or to make a fire, but in the end, the little boy is an old man, and the tree is still giving. It's a stump. It's just a stump for the old man to sit on, and so, wow, I mean, does this stuff make you guys cry? Or am I just like a really kooky hippie? I think I am. But anyway, I was thinking about how this tree was the giving tree, and that every time I look at this piece of bark, that's what it's going to represent to me. It's going to represent that we are all here to give, we are all here to be of service, and that is our nature, to give, and that it's worth, putting up a fight sometimes to keep being able to put out your light, to not let people tear you down and chop at you and chainsaw you out of your purpose here on life, to be of service and to give whatever it is you have to give. And this tree, one of the cool things it did was when they originally chopped it down, and it was like only waist high to me. This was before I knew they were just going to uproot it completely. It started growing back. It started growing back little limbs and shoots and sprouts, and it like had every intention of coming back. And it was so sweet and beautiful. And I used to talk to it and be like, come on, baby. I know you're going to make a comeback. So anyways, I did this prayer. I talked to my piece of bark. I looked out the window where the tree used to be. And then I went back in my room to do my little daily meditation and devotional thing, and I've been working with the Tao a lot lately. Again, I've had many periods of being into Taoism, but Wayne Dyer has this book called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. It's not the most inspiring cover, but he just has a really simple, beautiful way of breaking down the Tao. And when I opened up what today was going to be, I'm on verse 11 today, it was living from the void. And there's this section in here that talks about a tree. Where is it? Okay, here we go. It's talking about, let me tell you a little bit about what it's talking about. I'll read you the actual verse from the Tao. 30 spokes converge upon a single hub. It is on the hole in the center that the use of the cart hinges. Shape clay into a vessel. It is the space within that makes it useful. Carve fine doors and windows, but the room is useful in its emptiness. The usefulness of what is depends on what is not. So, does that make sense to you? Wayne helps break it down. About, a room, you've got the four walls of a room. You have those four walls, but that's not what is important. That's not what makes a room. It's the empty space within those four walls that make a room. If you break those four walls down and you just line them up in a stack, it's not a room anymore. It's the essence, it's the emptiness in the middle of the four walls that make the room. It's the emptiness inside the clay vase that makes the vase a vase and makes it a container to be able to hold something. And then he gives an example of a tree, and he says, ask yourself, what makes a tree a tree? The bark, the branches, the roots, the leaves? All of these things are what is. And all of them do not constitute a tree. What's needed to have a tree is what is not. an imperceptible, invisible life force that eludes your five senses. You can cut and carve and search the cells of a tree endlessly, and you will never capture it. Wasn't that a beautiful way to end my little tree experience? I thought it was. And maybe you're laughing at me right now because, I don't know, I'm upset about this tree getting chopped down. But I thought that was a very beautiful, spiritual moment that I had this morning that I wanted to share with you guys. Maybe you'll get something out of it. At least a laugh at my expense. I don't care. As long as I can make you happy and kick your week off right, maybe with a smile on your face. Hug a tree. I love trees. Much love. Peace.